Fantastic.
brother.
Change your life.
It literally did. And then I tried their donut. But with
Oh,
that being said, ladies and gentlemen,
interesting. Interesting.
this is the final episode with me and Harley before night one, round one of the 2025 NFL draft. The Houston Texans pick 25 and I leave that or out there because there is a lot of smoke, Harley. And before I get into it, shout out to Bleach for allowing us to come on here, talk Houston Texans football. Always a shout out to the man upstairs. When it comes to Nick Caserio, Harley, it's always close to the chest. We never really get a real clear idea of what his plans are. I will say this. When it comes to the draft, usually about 24 hours, 48 hours before, there's a little tidbit. And I bring this to you because 2 years ago during the CJ Stroud and Will Anderson Jr. draft, we got wind of a potential trade up. I believe it was Lance Zierlein who had the Houston Texans trading up and not selecting Will Anderson Jr., but selecting Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech. We played with the idea. Are the Houston Texans going to trade up? And here we are once again with, I believe it was Jeremy Fowler, who had reported that the Texans are looking to trade up, Harley. They are looking to trade up towards the middle of the first round.
Man, the NFL draft rumors are running rampant right now, and it's for the majority of teams that are in the top half of the first round, and it feels more and more like the NFL draft is going to start with pick number 4, the New England Patriots, because the Patriots are every mock has them taking Will Campbell, offensive tackle. But what if the Patriots passed up on him?
Mm.
And what if the Patriots went Ashton Genty?
Ooh,
What if the
Drake May?
Patriots went somewhere else? Because it feels like the first pick's Cam Ward. Okay, the second pick is going to be Travis Hunter. The third pick, Abdul Carter. Those are your top 3. But then at 4, if the Patriots don't pick an offensive lineman, that is good news for the Houston Texans, because that drops Campbell down another spot. And again, that is what you want if you're a Texan fan. You would want the Patriots not to pick an offensive lineman. I do wonder, with Mike Vrabel being a former Ohio State guy, does he have any ties to some Ohio State offensive linemen, specifically Josh Simmons? Maybe they trade down. There's so many trade rumors, and all of this affects the Houston Texans because, like you mentioned, they're looking to trade up in this draft. Jeremy Fowler's reporting that, and there's so many options there. According to Todd McShay, Kelvin Banks is not going past 13 to the Miami Dolphins. So if the Texans' number 1 guy is Kelvin Banks, everyone continues to have us trade all the way up with the Dallas Cowboys at number 12. And that's a hefty
deal with
price.
the devil. And I just watched Sinners, and not really too fond of making a deal with the devil.
Me neither. And it's just I disagree with the idea of trading up, but the whole reason you're trading up is because you did not do your job in free agency when it came to the offensive line group. You did not. Nick Caserio and the Texans, they've put a Band-Aid over this leak, but you're starting to see that the leak is a lot bigger than what you thought. In this offensive line room, as currently constructed, we're not talking OC, we're not talking new O-lines coach, as currently constructed, this offensive line group is not good. Like on paper wise, it's not good. So the Texans, doesn't shock me. They're in a little bit of a desperation right now, if these rumors are true, that there could be trading up to go get whatever offensive lineman they want.
But Harley, this is an entirely different tone from Monday's episode, where we heard from D'Amico Ryans, where he himself said that, we're not gonna pass on the best player available just because you have a need. And now 48 hours later, our need is being exploited where everyone knows what we are going to be drafted in the first round. Everyone knows who we want in the first round, because when you hear the Houston Texans are trading up, the player that is associated with that tweet is a Kelvin Banks. And
Mm-hmm.
it's okay, you backed yourself into the corner by trading away Lermiton. So now we know they had to go O-line. Harley, you know, just a totally different vibe from where we were on Monday, where we were talking about, yeah, that's why I could see a defensive tackle or a wide receiver at 25. But now it sounds like from themselves. Now, of course, we don't know whether these rumors are true or false.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, it sounds like the Houston Texans are a little bit of a panic mode because everyone is going to be upset if this offensive line is not heavily addressed in this draft. Now, I think it will be, though.
Yeah, and agreed with you. You know, the only thing that you could hope is that as a fan, and you mentioned it right there, is that we don't know if these rumors are true. We're assuming they're true. These are some big names that are being attached to said rumors. You got Jeremy Fowler talking about it. Todd McShay has talked about it. Adam Schefter has talked about it. These are big names, okay, that are attached to these rumors centered around the Texans at 25. But you know, it's pretty obvious they need an offensive lineman. So how wrong can they be? I would shock me if the Texans don't take an offensive lineman now at 25. I would be okay if they just stayed pat a little bit, and if they're okay with what they're okay with, I wouldn't even mind them trading down in this
Mm-hmm.
scenario, and grabbing a few more picks to even. I mean, there's still some solid offensive line guys that the Texans have met with that are second and third round guys would be available if you traded down. Ariante Ursery being one of them from Minnesota, Charles Grant from William and Mary in the third round as
Josh
well.
Connerly.
Yes, Josh Connerly's there. He might be able to pick him at 25, but if you traded down, maybe a bit of a squeeze to see if he's still there. But yeah, I mean, there's 2, 3 guys right there that the Texans have met with, and it's the draft rumors are crazy right now, man. It's very wild to be a Texan fan right now. You can't stay sitting down on the draft day ever.
No.
As Nick Casario is the GM, just don't be seated, Texans fans.
Nick Casario, I mean, I believe he's made at least 2 trades every single draft. In the CJ Stroud draft, every player was traded up for except for CJ Stroud. Nico Collins, Jalen Petrie, John Mechie, Blake Fisher, Juice Scruggs traded up for. So it would not surprise me one bit if I hear Roger Goodell go up to the podium and say, the Houston Texans have made a trade. But that leads me into the next question, Harley. You talked about it being a panic move if the Houston Texans trade up and select Kevin Banks because of what they didn't do in free agency. Would you say this was a negative thing by trading up and go getting Kelvin Banks?
Depends on how much you give up for him, but
Well, if
from
you
what
say
everyone
13, like that's it's gonna cost you this year's first, next year's first, and probably one of those thirds.
and that's what sucks.
That's Larry Tunsil.
Yeah, you know, Bill O'Brien's smiling right now. Um, yeah, it's that sucks, right? I mean, you're moving up essentially 13 spots if you got number 12 with the Dallas Cowboys, and you would have to trade the 25th pick, possibly the 58th pick, and then either your first next year or a second next year. Now you have 2 seconds next year. You have 2 fourths next year. It wouldn't shock me if the Texans made a small trade, but that's not what it feels like. It feels like they want Kelvin Banks Jr. out of UT, and they're going to try to get him any which way possible. Personally, Gray Zabel is a guy that continues to be mocked to the Seattle Seahawks at 18, and numerous media scouts have been saying that Gray Zabel does not leave Seattle at 18. If the Texans want to make a minor move. To me, that's a minor move I would not be upset with. Is trading a little bit of your draft capital, and if you wanted a Gray Zabel, they've talked to him already. If they deem him enough to be that swarmy offensive lineman that can change some of the culture here in that same group, that would be a guy I wouldn't be upset the Texans trade up and move. But again, let's say that's 16. You're still moving up 9 spots.
That's next
What
year's
is the
first.
trade value? Not happy, man. I'm not happy about this at all.
And once again, this could be, smoke and mirrors. But hey, if you remember a couple of drafts ago, we were even talking about the possibility of Nick Caserio leaving the Houston Texans after the draft. So I'm not sure if you remember that, Harley, but man, it was bad. It definitely was bad. But I wouldn't be upset if they traded because I understand, right? This is a glaring need. You cannot have CJ Stroud as the second most sacked quarterback in the NFL again. So if you want to say, hey, what I got from Laramie Tunsil, I went all in and got the highest, like the highest offensive lineman that I could. And if that happens to be Kelvin Bankston, great. You did it. Good job. But now it has to work. If you trade back, I wouldn't mind that, but there has to be a game plan because if you don't leave round one with an offensive lineman, everyone's going to be clowning the Houston Texans. Absolutely everyone. It does not surprise me one bit, Harley, that they're talking about is trading. I would say that I'm very surprised that it's like a huge trade. If it was, it feels like it's Kelvin Banks, or die in this situation. And I don't want to go into round one thinking that, because if we're talking like this, then I know for damn sure the other 31 teams, the actual, GMs know this as well. And it's gonna be hell, to get what you want in this up and coming draft.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't like this it's only one player or die type of scenario that the Texans have at least rumoredly backed themselves into. I hope it's not that way. I hope this is more smoke and mirrors. And to be honest, it wouldn't shock me if this was smoke and mirrors. It wouldn't. We know in the Houston Texans, they're extremely tight lipped. Even though what everything is coming out sounds plausible and it sounds believable, you just never know with Nick Caserio, man. There were so many rumors going into pick number 2 with CJ Stroud. We didn't know really what we were going to do. We were hoping it was CJ Stroud since, we didn't have the number 1 pick anymore. We were hoping it was a quarterback. We were hoping that we could land him. But, the rumors are running rampant right now. You have Schrager mock the Texans, Donovan Jackson. Matt Miller mocks the Texans, Josh Simmons. Oof. You got others mocking us, all kinds of offensive linemen only. It's not shocking if the Texans don't get themselves an offensive lineman.
So let's go ahead and jump into it, Harley. Our final mock draft on the Bleacher Report app of the 2025 season. I'm so hyped. Let's get into it. It's going to be 3 rounds. It's going to be 25. You know what? Let's go to PFS because it gives us the ability to trade. Because Harley, I'm going to give you the option to trade up in this draft, and it will be around that 12-13. So let's go ahead and start the draft. Okay, so Cameron Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, 1, 2, 3. No surprise there.
Yep.
Will Campbell 4, Will Johnson 5, Ted McMillan 6, Mason Graham 7, Shamar Stewart 8. All right, we're at 13. Miami. Let's try to propose a trade, Harley. What would you give up to go to 13?
Wow. Obviously you have to give up 25. And then, man, I would rather give up 79 instead of 58, but I'm sure they wouldn't take that deal. But I feel like your 25th pick, the 58th pick, this year, and then man, I'll go with the second round pick next year. I don't want to give up that first round pick.
You want to give up ours or Washington's?
Um, I'll give up Washington's.
Okay, let's
It's a
propose
little bit
this.
more valuable, I would say.
Let's propose this to the Miami Dolphins. Harley, they accepted it.
Yeah, I mean that's tough. I mean, because now you don't have a second round pick, but you have two third round picks. So
Okay,
you have
so
79 and
14.
80. Ugh, you would have to trade up from one of those spots as well and utilize your fourth next year. Again, all of the trade capital that you got from Laramie Tunsil, poof, is just about to vanish because the Texans and Nick Caserio did not do their job this offseason to improve the offensive line group. You saw the Chicago Bears. They woke up and said, we're going to go trade for Joe Thuney and we're going to go sign some offensive linemen to improve the group that was horrible for Caleb Williams' life last year. And the Texans decided, well, yeah, we got a plan. We're going to trade away Laramie Tunsil, and we're going to do nothing to replace him. We're going to do nothing to bring in anybody that is average enough to make your O-line better and to help CJ Stroud's daily living life. That's what we did. And that's what I'm so upset at, because now it's biting you in the ass, because now it's coming back to you that you didn't do nothing this free agency.
You know, I was one of the people who was acting like this, Harley, and I was told, Ruben, it's okay. He had 19 false starts, and the main thing I was worried about was that now we're backed into a corner. So here we are, the Texans were backed into a corner. Number 13. Where are you going?
Kelvin Banks is on the board. That's the guy the Texans are going to get.
All right. Kelvin Banks, you are a Houston Texan. Now let's wait a little bit.
Yeah, it's the draft party is going to be insane, huh? If the Texans make that trade and it's, well, thankfully there's not a draft party for day 2.
So I mean, dude, this would not shock anyone. It would not surprise me if they go, balls to the walls and make a trade like this. But you bring up what the Chicago Bears did, and I would say the Houston Texans did that. Re-signing Laramie Tui 3-year, re-signing the Titus Tui 3-year, bringing in Shaq Mason and giving him a 3-year. Those were your three big free agent signings, and unfortunately they fell apart quickly. You didn't even get a year and a half of that, of those three. So sad to say, man, it just didn't work out for us. So, you have to do what you can because you're already strapped for cash, and any big investment that you wanted to make this year, you had to keep in mind that in 2 seasons, well, you had to pay Derek Stingley. That's the thing
Yeah.
that had to get done this offseason. So, it just wasn't worth for us this year. However, 79 Harley, we're back. Jaden Higgins available from Iowa State. Ozzy Trapillo, offensive tackle for Boston College. Cameron Scattaboo, Tej Johnson, Gunnar Helm. Let me see any guards available. Miles Frazier out of LSU. Dylan Fairchild out of Georgia. See what wide receivers. What are your thoughts on Torrey Holton?
Yeah, he's getting a lot of love recently out of Colorado State. I'd have to do some more work on Torrey Horton. I don't know too much on him, to be honest. He's kind of been like a late draft stock riser. I've seen him mentioned on Steve Smith's show now. where he talks about all the wide receivers. And I've seen some other scouts, national media scouts, and YouTube channels starting to talk more about Torrey Horton. So I don't necessarily know a lot about him, but I mean, he seems to be high on some people's board.
Yeah, I just think at 79 you got to go BPA. I mean,
Yeah.
Jaden Higgins at 66. Come on, that would be there. Like,
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's best player available.
but
I mean, I like his running mate Jalen Noel better out of Iowa State.
5'10.
What's there at running back besides Scatabo?
DJ Giddens,
Okay.
and then Bayusho Tutton.
Yeah.
Then it's
Okay.
Damian
No.
Martinez or
How does
nothing.
defensive tackle look like? You want to piss off some people.
Omar
They went.
Norman Lott,
Okay. Yeah.
Ty Robinson,
And Nebraska.
Joshua Farmer,
Yeah. Joshua Farmer,
Deion
somebody the
Walker.
Texans met with. Yeah. Man, this sucks. I hate that we traded up because now it's like there's so much weight to pick 79 and 89 now. Like you want to pick a slam dunk here. And there's not really, I mean, Jaden Higgins to me isn't that slam dunk. Like, okay, cool. You picked him because he's the best one available, but he's not necessarily the best player. Wow, and I have no clue what to do there.
I mean, I would say, damn, this is tough. I don't want to trade up Harley.
No, I'm done trading.
I'll take Jaden Higgins because it's the plot, but
go for it.
Like you said, it doesn't feel like I, got a for sure draft steal. And 89, I'm gonna just select Dylan Fairchild because you got to get out this draft.
No problem.
You got 3 picks in the top 100, and you went offensive tackle, offensive guard, and you got yourself a wide receiver. I mean, I don't think anyone will be mad at that. However, when you see the context, you're missing about one extra pick, and that's your second rounder.
Yeah, and that's where I would have loved for the Texans to look at a running back. A little nugget that Jeremy Fowler dropped, nobody mentioned. He said the Houston Texans are trying to improve their run game. Now, there's 2 ways to improve in the run game. Obviously, offensive line, but the way he put it contextually was he was talking about the running backs specifically. And he said the Texans want to improve their run game. It feels like if at 58 would be a very good spot for the Texans to take a look if Quinshon Judkins is still there. If I don't think Travion Henderson's going to be there. I think Travion Henderson, if there's 2 running backs picked before Henderson, it's probably Genty, obviously, and then Omarion Hampton. I feel like Travion Henderson's going to 32 with the Kansas City Chiefs. That's just my idea there. So at 58, you got Judkins available. You mentioned Scatabo, but that's a little too rich for me for Scatabo. Dylan Sampson could be available out of Tennessee. Maybe, there's different options there. I don't know, man. I don't like the idea of trading up, and I don't like that Nick Caserio is starting to make me stress as a Texan fan right now.
Oh, so are you stressing?
Big time.
Big time. Dude, so what happens if the only offensive tackles left for you was Greg Zabel at 25? Are you selecting him, or are you just trying to trade back?
If Greg Zabel's available at 25, I'm taking him.
Okay. And you'll be happy with Greg Zabel, and he breaks the Power 5 record.
Yeah, he breaks that moniker that the Texans don't draft no Power 5 guys. I know people say Tank Dell, but the AAC, the American Athletic Conference, where the University of Houston was at, they were just about to join the Big 12, so it was still in the process. Plus, he's in the backyard. And the Texans love to draft guys here within the state of Texas. We've seen constant guys that they've drafted: Baylor, A&M, University of Houston, multiple guys like that. Any guys that have Texas relation, they love to draft.
Well, Harley, I think it's come down to it as we get ready for night one of the draft. Pick 25. What do you realistically think is going to happen there?
This is what I think is going to happen for the Houston Texans. I think they are trading up. I do believe in these rumors. I think they are trading up. And I do think somehow, some way, they find a deal that they could trade up with. There has been some talks that the deals are 70 cents to the dollar, meaning the deals are a little bit cheaper. So if they stay that way, then the Houston Texans can make a move, and they don't necessarily give up a whole bunch of draft capital in the process. I do think they find a way to get Kelvin Banks. I really do. I think that's what exactly. It's going to be tough, but it feels like the Texans are trading up to get Kelvin Banks. To who and where, I don't know.
So we are praying for Ashton Jeanty at 4.
I would pray like something like that. If man, I mean, the Browns to me would make a lot of sense if they grabbed an Ashton Jeanty. The Browns don't have a running back currently. And a running back would definitely help their lack of offense. They don't have nothing offensively. They brought back Joe Flacco, and yes, Deshaun Watson is injured for them. To me, Ashton Jeanty gives them an identity. At least they didn't bring back Nick Chubb. They don't have nothing in the running back room. Ashton Jeanty brings them some offense. And to me, I would love to see him go number 2 to the Browns. And now I know that would piss off Travis Hunter, but that makes him slip. And if he's there at number 4, how can you not pass him up? If Abdul Carter is there at number 4, how can you not pass him up? That's what I'm hoping for, is that Ashton Jeanty is a top 4 pick in the draft. I think that bodes well for the Texans.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for us. Actually, let me get what I think happens. If it's not Kelvin Banks, I think the Houston Texans end up with Donovan Jackson Jr., offensive guard / tackle out of Georgia. I think that's the safest pick, and I think that's the pick that happens. Ladies and gentlemen, Harley will be live tomorrow immediately whenever the Houston Texans are done working. I myself will be live at the Dave & Buster's Katy location doing a live watch party. For more Houston Texans content, you guys know what to do. Free follow us for more. We'll speak to you Friday before round 2. Go Houston. Have a very blessed day.
Go Rockets.
Go Rockets. Go Tigers.